celebration we're having this evening. You guys having fun? Has it been good? Dad, thank you for your kind words. Tonight's event is all about vision. And I had the privilege of growing up in a house with a man of great vision. Dad, you were the first in our family in generations to leave the tuna fishing industry, to go on to college, then to law school, and you had the vision to become part of this industry. I hope, as I stand here today, that you can see what an inspiration you and Mom have always been to me and the rest of our family. You know, to be honest with y'all, this was not my first career choice. My first career choice was to be a tuna fisherman, having grown up with that heritage. However, my father highly discouraged that, knowing that the lure of big money and the sweet smell of fish would lead a young man astray. I'd like to start tonight by recognizing some very important people. You've already been introduced to the 2012 Board of Directors, but the majority of our membership is represented by the BIA's councils. So if you're a member of one of the following councils, would you please stand to be recognized? The BIA Cares Board, chaired by Tina Vila. The Builders Resource Council, chaired by John Patterson. The Sales and Marketing Council, chaired by Melissa Dean. The Specialty Contractors Council, chaired by Steve Grimes. And our Young Guns, the YGen Council, chaired by Mark Moss. Would you all join me in giving these board members a round of applause? They truly are the backbone of our association. Now, if you'd continue to indulge me for a couple more moments, there's some more people I'd like to thank. First, our installation committee. Mark McMillan, my chair. Sandy Carrata. John Davidson. Jim Schmidt. Danny Gabriel. Mike Reynolds. And of course, Carla Villari of the BIA. Thank you for putting together such a wonderful event. These functions, I had no idea of how much work went into putting them together. In fact, some of you have had the opportunity in the past, perhaps, to work with Don Davidson at Design Line. Wow, you should see her work on an event like this. I don't know if you noticed, and of course nuances are somewhat lost on me, but the sauce matched the tablecloth, not by accident. Dawn's vigor in this was as if she was attacking a premier model complex. But thank you all so very much. You've done a fantastic job. Thank you. And of course, I'd like to thank the McMillans, Mark and Scott, not only for your support and encouragement in my BIA involvement, but in addition for allowing me to be part of your organization and your company. What a treat it has been to work with you for the last 8 years. Thank you so very much. And to my McMillan teammates, what a joy it is to come and work with you guys every day. You make it truly a joy. You're professional at what you do and the best of the business. Thank you. And since everyone else mentioned Steve Aronoff, I got to mention him too. Steve has been my mentor for a very long time and has very rarely, and I had to just throw that in, Steve, steered me wrong. Because he would claim, of course, he's never steered me wrong. Thank you, Steve, for all your guidance over the years. And lastly, a lot's been made of it tonight, but for those who haven't noticed, these two tables right down here include my immediate family. Father, uncle, brothers, sisters, nieces, and nephews, and of course my wife and best friend Chelsea, and our 3 wonderful children, Nicholas, Catherine, and Grace. As you can see, my family always travels as a herd. Whether they're gathering for an 8-year-old birthday party, a soccer game, a school commencement, or this special ceremony, you'll rarely find a solo Asaro. In fact, if you're here tonight and your name isn't Asaro, you're outnumbered. Thank you all for your support over the many years. I know at times it was challenging. Chelsea, my wife. 16 years ago, I stumbled into the house at 1 in the morning and greeted you my new bride. You were waiting up for me. And I remember you asking me, where the heck have you been? I explained to you that I had been making a presentation to the City Council of Chula Vista. My item had been pulled for the agenda, so I wasn't heard till the end of the evening. That particular night, there were several contentious issues, and so I wasn't heard till midnight. As I told you the story, I saw your eyes, and you were wondering, what the heck have I got myself into? But you know, in those days, the council hearings were covered by cable access TV. 2 hours delay. So at 3 in the morning, you got to see me in action. And ever since, Chelsea, you've been my strongest supporter. And you've let me pursue my passion, understanding that the late nights and extended hours meant you were going to have to pick up a lot of the slack. And by that I mean all of the slack. I love you, and thank you for allowing me to follow my dream. All right, my little three rascals. Nicholas, Catherine, and Grace. What do I tell you every night? Well, that's unfair. I tell you a lot of things. But each night at dinner, I ask each of you, what did you do today to make the world a better place? And how did you choose to make a difference? And like the smart kid you are, you turn it around on me and you ask me the same question. And so on the whiteboard in my office, if you go into my office, it says, choose to make a difference today. And it encourages me to find a way every day to answer your question. And tonight, I hope to show you all how I'm trying to do just that. Now, 3 years ago, when Bob Cummings approached me about being in the BIA chairs, I definitely remember Bob telling me, Guy, you'll be chairman in 2012. 2012, think of it, the economy will be zooming. All right, Bob. Bob, you're a wonderful friend. You're a great person and a phenomenal real estate executive, but a prognosticator you are not. I thank you nonetheless for getting me here. You see, this organization and our industry mean a great deal to me, and I'm so very proud to be able to serve as BIA's board chair. I have been in this industry for over 30 years. And once the tuna fishing thing was off the table, the building industry seemed like a logical choice. You see, I grew up in Scripps Ranch, and in fact, our family was the third to move into that community. My father had represented the original developer on the purchase from the Scripps family. And like many communities back in those days, many of the early families were somehow connected to the builder. Remember, my dad had a friend who'd come by the house quite often. It was the mid-70s, and this guy drove a Ford LTD. And this LTD had a phone in it. Now remember, this was the mid-70s, so the phone was the kind with the rotary dial, and it was mounted right on the floor. You know, at 8 or 9, I was convinced he was a secret agent. But when I asked my father what he did, he explained he worked for the developer. That was it. I was going to be a developer. And if that wasn't enough to cement the deal, several weeks later, a friend and I were out playing, and we watched a helicopter circle about a construction site. It eventually landed. Some guys in suits got out, pointed their fingers about, got in the helicopter, and flew off. That was it. I was going to be a builder. Now, who could have guessed by the time I got in the industry, cell phones were the size of credit cards and basically free? I was lucky enough to grow up in Scripps Ranch and watch it grow from the ground up. It's truly one of San Diego's great neighborhoods. And we are all so fortunate to live in a city with so many jewels like Scripps Ranch. As San Diegans, all of us recognize the values of places like Balboa Park and Mission Bay Park and the Hotel Del. And it would be hard to fathom our city without these treasures. But just as with our projects today, each of these historic places face significant challenges of their own. NIMBYism, politics, and naysayers all conspired to try and keep these places from ever coming into existence. Can you imagine if the opposition had won and Balboa Park was never built? Or if Horton Plaza, the spark that brought downtown to prominence, didn't exist? But what led the birth of each of these places, and many more just like them, were iconic leaders with vision who stayed true to their beliefs, even in the face of opposition. You know, it is so easy, especially in difficult times, like those we're in now, to look at the world through a porthole, to view the challenges from a limited perspective of what's immediately in front of us. But the men that San Diego history remembers were able to climb up on deck and view the advance of the horizon that San Diego had to offer. And I'm thinking about men like Alonzo Horton, and John D. Spreckles, and George Marston, and Ernie Hahn, men who had vision. Vision that transcended the here and the now, and vision that believed with conviction in what they were doing was right and good, and that time would prove the mettle of their purpose. A vision that shined through the doubters and cast a light in what had been darkness. These great community servants all had at least one thing in common. They believed in a better San Diego, and they knew their vision would benefit generations to come. Mr. Horton arrived in San Diego in 1867, and he quickly realized our harbor was the best place for a city he had ever seen. Horton intended to see his vision for San Diego become a reality. So a month after he arrived, he bought 960 acres for $265. Many called Horton a fool for the purchase of this new town. That property today is downtown San Diego. Horton, like those of us in this room who dream big, saw San Diego for what it could be. And aren't we glad he did? John D. Spreckles came to San Diego in 1887 and instantly fell in love with our city. Spreckles' vision led him to invest heavily in our city for over 50 years, building the Hotel Del, railroads, dams, and water systems. Spreckles invested so much money that citizens routinely criticized him for his business involvement. Frustrated by the constant criticism, in 1923, Spreckles gave a speech, and if you have the opportunity to ever read it, you all should. But in that speech, to the most influential business leaders of the community, what he said 89 years ago about local politics and small-mindedness still rings true today. And I quote, "The moment anyone appears with any proposition of a big constructive nature, the small-town undertakers get busy digging its grave." And he went on to say, what San Diego lacked that other successful cities had was simply cooperation. Sounds familiar? George Marston believed so deeply in his vision for Balboa Park that he spent $10,000 of his own money in 1902 to hire the landscape architect from New York Central Park to prepare the first comprehensive plan for Balboa Park. Marston pushed to finish the park plan prior to the Panama, California Exposition in 1950. He saw it as an opportunity to showcase our city to the world. But because numerous locals were suspicious of Marston's motives, many people actually opposed the plan for Balboa Park. And visionaries are not only limited to the annals of history long gone. In 1972, Ernie Hahn received preliminary approval for his concept to build a retail center in downtown San Diego. And for those of you who weren't around then, it is hard to understand why anyone would want to make that kind of investment in an area lined with tattoo parlors and seated movie theaters. These were the days before DVDs. Mr. Hahn's project would become the genesis of the Center City Development Corporation, which started its work in 1975 and has transformed our downtown from an unsavory red light district into the showpiece it is today. It took Hahn 10 years to break ground on Horton Plaza, and he had to overcome numerous challenges along the way. And at times, those challenges must have seemed insurmountable. But aren't we glad Mr. Hahn followed through with his vision? Like our predecessors, what we all do is immensely important. We build the homes, apartments, offices, and shops that are so vital to our way of life. We build the social components that help bind our society together, the parks, the schools, and civic venues where we spend our free time. A long time ago, when I was a superintendent, I learned what was really important was that one homeowner out of many that would come up to me and say, "Thank you. Thank you for building me this home for me and my family." And those few words made all the hard work make sense. You see, politics and recessions will come and go, but what sets us apart as a nation is our industry's ability to build dreams. And in a world filled with intangible industries and computer-generated wealth, what we do is concrete. What we do is real. You know, long before someone moves into an office, long before someone moves into a home or plays in a park or attends at school, it's someone in our industry who had the vision to plan, to create, or to build that space. That's powerful and that's important. We build the best buildings in the world, generally superior in every way, yet many lawmakers are trying to legislate us out of existence. Despite the economic challenges our industry faces, governmental regulation has continued to increase, adding thousands of dollars to homes, buildings, and apartments. And of course, it's just important to note that the impact could have been far worse had it not been for the pushback of this association, your association. So we must build on our successes, including those of the most recent election, and continue to support candidates who support our vision. And never before has it been more important for our industry to stand united. For if you look at the oppositionists, those who assail our vision and our dreams, they are united as never before. And if you don't believe in the power of a united force, then I ask you to look back to 2008, when the federal government made history by nationalizing General Motors. The government blew out the stockholders, and they blew out the bondholders, and they crushed the bank. And they gave that company to the United Auto Workers. And why? Because everyone in that industry, regardless of what they do, says, I am an auto worker. They don't say lug nuts on cars. They say, I am an auto worker. Our industry dwarfs the economic impact of the auto industry. Can you imagine our message when we speak with a united voice? As your chairman, I plan to spend the next year expanding our membership and building a comprehensive coalition with members from every corner of the building industry. This coalition will speak with a united voice that will help strengthen the great foundation we have already built. We have to continue to dream big and see those dreams through in the face of opposition. So I'm going to challenge each of you, just as I have been challenged by my children. Choose to make a difference. Choose to make the world a better place each and every day. You see, we are no different than the great civic leaders who came before us. And when I look out into this room, I see visionaries and I see industry leaders. And I know San Diego's in good hands. You know, there will come a time when all of us look back and take pride in what we have created, what we have left behind. And there will come a time when we are judged by our work. And I'm confident when that time comes, the people of San Diego will be grateful. And I'm confident future generations will appreciate what we have left them. And I'm confident our vision and accomplishments will inspire them to continue to shape and care for America's finest city. All of us should be proud. Together, with our predecessors, we built this city. Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of your evening.